Hi, everyone. Are we live? Yes, live. Thank you all for joining us tonight as we celebrate the launch of Amor, Actually, our holiday romance anthology. We are, as it says in the blurb, 7 Latina romance authors who all came together to do a holiday romance anthology because we hadn't seen one out there, and we are all a fan of holiday romance movies. So we thought, wouldn't it be such a fun thing to do to write a book that is inspired by all of these holiday romance movies that we love so much and often do group watches of? I know that all of us are kind of making our way through the Netflix holiday movies at the moment. So we will talk about those in our group texts every so often, whenever someone sees one. So that was kind of the impetus for us doing this project. You know, we're all friends. We have wanted to work on something together for a long time. We've tossed around a lot of other anthology ideas, and this was the one that we actually put together. So, and I just got my paper copy today, so I'm like very excited. It's
It's a thickie.
Yes. I just want to say real quickly, I can read the comments, but I can't type in there. So hola, everyone.
Yeah, we can't respond. Hello,
we can't respond. We'll be watching the comments, and if there's a question, we're going to hope that there's later, hopefully time that we'll pull the answers. But hola, everyone.
Yeah, hi to everybody watching at home. This is actually like one of the beauties of being virtual, right? Is that all of us in all of our various locations are able to come together and do an event like this. Because let me tell you guys, it was hard enough for us to even schedule group Zooms. And sometimes it would take like months of planning to find one day when we were all available. And to try to get us, I think, all in one place. We have not done that for a few years, unfortunately, but hopefully someday we'll do it again.
Next year. Yes.
But now we're
here. 2022.
So there are 7 of us, so we're going to jump right into it talking about our stories, because otherwise we're going to be here all night the way we've got. So, I'm going to read the blurb for each story and then ask that author to tell us more about their process, to tell us about the story, about their characters, about their inspiration, and then we'll go from there. Sound good? How's everybody doing in the comments? Oh, it was Zoey figured out how to write.
So did you go online with your phone?
It's on my phone.
That's what I was. Good. I saw you watch the comments. And I was like, "Ooh, I'm going to try on my phone."
So, Marty pants.
What's everyone drinking? I don't know.
Water.
Negroni.
But I am drinking water out of a Guinness glass.
I'm drinking coquito.
Oh my gosh, I'm making coquito on Saturday, but I'm drinking a glass of cab.
Yeah, I've got a Negroni, my favorite.
I love Negronis.
Me too.
Okay, so first up, we have Adriana Herrera with the most inspired title of them all, Make the Yuletide Gay, which plays off of the rock star and manager trope. And here is the blurb. After a string of broken engagements, an international Latin pop star finds love in her sexy and constant manager. Days before her big live holiday special, a special that I wish were real, Vivi wonders if the woman of her dreams could finally be hers. All right, so Adriana, what drew you to this trope, and how did this working with this trope define the way that the characters grew out of that and the story that you told?
Well, I came up with that idea early in the year, and I'm not gonna say that it was inspired by a certain Latina star who had just had another breakup and a string of breakups that we have all been like obsessively following for 20 years, but I'm not going to say that's what it was. And so I knew I wanted to do a queer story. I initially thought it was going to be MM, but then the stars aligned and I was like, oh, this would be perfect. And I also wanted to kind of dabble into writing like a queer story that was like with a bigger age gap, and kind of like explore, especially for Latina women, like I think sexuality and desire is something that women of a certain age, I'm in my 40s, haven't gotten to explore or didn't get to explore when we were like in our years of self-discovery. So I think, for Vivi, it's like she's like now attracted to her manager. She's only ever dated men, and like she's really like wondering and thinking about how that happened. So I kind of wanted to explore that stuff, but mostly it's just like fun and has a really sexy scene. I love stories with toys because I just think it's fun, especially around the holidays. So that was my inspiration.
Do you want to tell us real quick about your upcoming story that involves toys?
Oh, yes. And I have another like surprise story coming out. I think late next week I'm going to do it. It's called The Toy King. And it's a new story in the Toy Runners universe. I put out Her Night with Santa last year, and it was like an FF with like a butch lesbian Santa. And this one is an MF with a descendant of the Magi, which I'm glad my mom doesn't speak Spanish because...
Doesn't speak English.
I mean, doesn't speak English, yes, because I, like, if she found that story, it would be a problem. But it's super sexy and it's called The Toy King.
So were there any holiday traditions or anything from your own life that you put into this story when you were writing it?
I honestly, like, because it was like short, I couldn't really explore the holiday traditions that much. The only thing that I was like the party, which is a common theme for all the stories, that they were going to a family member's party, which is something that we all do. Like there's always someone that hosts la fiesta del 24. So that was like the one tradition that we were able to put in there. At least I could in that story.
And I think that's something I should have said at the beginning, that the whole point of this book is that all of the characters in the book are funneling into this one party hosted by Gigi and a story written by Zoraida. And that was the interconnected piece, right? They're all ending up at this party. Some of them are related to each other. Some of them are friends. Some of them, there's like side characters who pop up in each other's stories. So we wanted it to feel like it was like this contained world with all of these little romances happening, not little romances, but all of these romances happening in a short bite and then ending up together at the end. Next up, we have Only Yours by Sabrina Sol. The mayor of New York embarks on a Christmas Eve search to find the woman he loves before she gets away. So Sabrina, this is not your first time writing about a politician. Do you want to talk to us about why you are maybe drawn to those stories and that kind of power dynamic and how you navigated that in Only Yours?
I think that's true. This is not the only politician that I have written about. I think maybe it has something to do with the past couple of years that that all of us have been dealing with. And also just, coming from the point of view where traditionally, Latin characters are not typically in positions of power in literature and books. And so I really try to focus on putting them in those type of positions, or at least having them in careers that are very successful. So that's not really, something that they have to deal with, in terms of struggling. So that's definitely why I think I lean towards those types of careers for my characters. And I also really enjoy reading workplace romances, but, workplace romances can get a little bit problematic if one of the people are in a position of power over the love interest. So that's why in this story, I wanted to make sure that the heroine did not work for the mayor, and they were just kind of on an even level. So I think that's something that is important when you're talking about workplace romances, to make sure that someone's not having leverage over the other person. And this is actually also the first story I've written from a male point of view only. And I did not plan on writing the story that way. And the first draft, or the first couple of chapters, were actually alternating point of view between the hero and the heroine, but I just would get stuck. And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to try it from his point of view, first person, which also is a first for me. And I think it just came naturally for this story because he's the one who has the most to lose if he goes after this relationship. So I think that's why the story lended itself towards first person.
Yeah, you really get the sense of that inner tension that he feels. He's so careful about everything. Was there, you have a bunch of holiday themed things in there. Were there any that came from your own experiences?
Yeah, for sure the tamales. There's, a running gag that everybody keeps giving him tamales. And that's really straight from my family's Christmas Eve, Nochebuena tradition. We gather as a family on my mom's side to make tamales on the morning of Christmas Eve. It's all the women in the family. A few men, dare to show up sometimes, but it's mainly all of the women. And we're the ones who stay there for a couple hours and make the tamales. Then we all leave, we all go do what we have to do. And then we all come back, everybody comes back in the evening and we eat the tamales. So that was something that I definitely pulled from my own experiences and my own traditions.
Awesome. Next up is Priscilla with Meet Me Under the Mistletoe. And here's a little bit about that. Challenged by his friends to find a +1 to Nochebuena dinner or else, widower Hector Gutierrez isn't sure he's still got any good moves left. That is, until he strikes the right chord with his son's music teacher, Cristina. So Priscilla, what drew you to writing a story about, we've got this very sweet single dad, widowed father, and young music teacher with Broadway orchestra aspirations.
Yes, Broadway dreams. I think like one of the tropes in all of the books I write, or even like the novelas that I've written, are familia themes. So I was drawn to and my debut is single dad, right? So just that whole trope. I like having the even though it's a short vignette, like I hope I do a good enough job, like showing the father-son relationship. It's like another aspect of, in our romance novels where our characters go through this arc and at the end, hopefully they're like in a healthy society. And we've showed examples of how a healthy love with their partner, but also with those that they're close to are important. And so even though we were trying to keep it short and sweet, or short and like jalapeno spicy, but short, we were, I enjoyed the challenge of trying to weave in some of the father-son relationship, but also I loved that he was older, that Hector's older, and, Christina's a little bit older, and maybe because I'm a little bit older. And so just that whole idea of finding second love, again, I was drawn to that. So that's kind of why I leaned kind of towards that trope, because it's kind of near and dear to me.
And do you have any holiday traditions or customs that you put in from your own life?
In there, I'll say like there's kind of a lot. Like Hector, his love of cooking is one of my mom's brothers, like primo hermano. So like they're cousins, but they grew up like brothers and sisters. We call him Kiko. That's his nickname, but he's Hector. So that's where, and he's an amazing chef. And so that's kind of where Hector's love of cooking came from. Gutierrez is my abuela's maiden name. So those kind of ties. And we always have similar, like to Sabrina, I feel like I'm going back to food, but our Nochebuena dinner here Nochebuena is also my mommy and papi's anniversary. So it's like a doubly kind of celebration. Yeah, Nochebuena. And so there's always pernil. And so hence that's what does she talk about? Making a pernil. And there's always coquito. If I had not been traveling, there would already be coquito like in the house. But I just got back last night, because I will say throughout the month of December into January 6th, like Dia de los Tres Reyes, my coffee creamer becomes coquito. Doesn't matter what time of day. So when she shows up at some point in the book, or in the story, I don't want to say when, like she's got pernil and coquito, and those are like two things that will always be. Even my youngest, who is a vegan, pandemic Christmas, when she couldn't come home, she was making a pernil, and she was like, I'm not vegan on Christmas Eve because it's not Christmas Eve unless there's a pernil. So, so those things were, I had to put those in the story too. And I think, like a lot of us, listening to a lot of Christmas carols, like, throughout. And I will say real quickly, if you have read, I don't want to say all my books, but the two novellas that I've written before, there's like a little bitty Easter egg in Meet Me Under the Mistletoe that is a nod to one of my previous anthologies. So I'll just say it. In Lights Out, in Summer in the City, there's a nod to one of the characters in there. So if you figure out what that little Easter egg is, DM me, and I'll let you know if you're right or wrong.
I think I know what it is.
Yes, Elizabeth says pernil is delicious. Oh my gosh, pernil anytime is delicious. And totally try coquito, Elizabeth, if you can. It's delicious.
So my story is next, but before I read that, because also I didn't come up with a question for myself. I just wanted to say that, like, both of you talking about the food in this book, like, it's just making me think about like the whole vibe of the book in general, that like there's so much good food, like it just evokes the feeling of music and family and home. And one of the things, I'm going to fangirl a little bit, not about myself, even though I'm in the book, but just like about the book in general, is that it's just got this like amazing feel from all of us bringing our own voices to it, that each story, we're all such different writers, and yet it all blends together so seamlessly in a way that the differences in our voice kind of create the pacing of the entire anthology in a way that just feels really organic and enjoyable. So even though I know my stories are in there too, but reading through it, like straight through, it's just like, it feels like one piece as a whole. And I'm just really glad that we were able to do this and I got to be part of it. So
I was going to say real quickly, like, it just reminds me of like Latinidad in general, that it's not like one thing. It's not right. It's a beautiful mix of a bunch of different countries and a bunch of, similar traditions, but yet some different, and similar language, but yet little differences, and similarities in food, but yet some differences. And that same idea is woven through our anthology. So not to pat ourselves on the back, but I feel like it's like an amazingly beautiful representation of Latinidad.
I think we should. So my story is All I Want for Nochebuena. And it is, obviously the title comes from the Mariah Carey song. When sparks fly between adult film stars Honey and Julie, Honey must work up the courage to invite Julie to her family's holiday party or risk losing what she really wants for Nochebuena, a chance at true love. Don't ask me how many times I listened to that song while working on this. So I went with a tried and true trope for me, which is the backstage romance. But in this case, I did something different, where the actors are porn stars. And I couldn't talk about this in my newsletter because I was afraid that emails would not let my newsletter go through if I use that word in the email. So I was like, how do I talk about this? Okay, they're adult film stars, but like, what else can I say? So they are filming together, and they know each other online and have kind of flirted, but have never met in person. And the main conflict is that it's very cold where they're filming. So, there's a lot of like huddling for warmth and things like that. But the piece that I wanted to talk about here that, from writing from that angle, is that I really wanted to make sure that I was doing their profession justice and making sure that I did research in a way, and that the characters talked about it in a way that was sex positive and talking about ethical porn practices and fair trade porn and things like that. And that those characters show that they are engaged in activism around that as well. Because I thought, if I'm going to write these two characters, I need to make sure that I'm drawing attention to that as well. So the whole idea was that, they're kind of having this like adorable, like wholesome little like crush that turning into more, and then also like these very sexy scenes together. And there is an connection between this story and Adriana's first story, Make the Yuletide Gay, where there's a character named Bad Kitty who I love, and I feel like she needs to get her own story at some point.
Yeah.
And she has a line of intimate lifestyle products. So those products show up in both of our stories. So something to look forward to. And the holiday tradition that I included is that the POV character Honey, aka Helena, brings vegan coquito to the party, and she brings like a virgin vegan coquito to the set because they're all at work, obviously. Because my mom makes coquito every year, and she does make vegan versions, and she makes it differently every time. So it's impossible to get a recipe out of her. It's basically just like whatever she has in the house, and then she puts it all together, but it somehow tastes the same every year. So I don't know what kind of magic that is, but that's what I put into my story.
That's really good magic. I was just going to type, my youngest needs that recipe. And then you're like, she makes it differently every year. So
yeah. I don't know exactly what she does.
This one is not vegan nor virgin, but it's delicious.
Oh, I bet.
No, mine are never vegan, definitely never virgin.
It always is.
Next,
just like me.
How many of those of you have some right now? Next up, we have Mia Sosa, who wrote Santa's Eager Little Helper. Sarita's plan to confess her crush on a colleague goes awry when she's tasked with playing the sexy elf to his grumpy Santa. Sign me up. Will she seize the opportunity to make Carlos's naughty list, or will she spend another Nochebuena alone? So, Mia, you have also written a lot of workplace romances. So what drew you to that, and what made you want to, how did you manage the sibling dynamic that's there as well?
So I think I write workplace romances because I never want to be in a traditional workplace ever again. And this is my way of sort of exploring all of the things that I experienced. But in this story, I really wanted to do coworkers who enjoyed each other and were real friends and wanted to take that to the next level. And this would be sort of the moment that would happen. And these coworkers have been crushing on each other hard. And I just love the idea of people pining. And I do think there was a lot of brainstorming when we were talking about this story. You guys gave me so many great ideas. Adriana was like, they must be pining. And Alexis was like, well, there must be costumes. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. So I think it all came together, and I, put them doing an IG live where Carlos is obviously uncomfortable with being in front of people, and Sarita is the sort of happy-go-lucky, we can make this work. And I just wanted to sort of get them together and have them talk about the foods that we eat, because I have sort of a little bit of a different experience from some of you, which is that I have a Brazilian background as well. So different language, obviously Portuguese, and then also some different foods. But the Brazilian matriarchs in my family, none of them married Brazilian men. And so, Nochebuena for us was everything. So you'll see in my story, there's couve mineira, which is kind of like the traditional Brazilian collard greens. And then arroz con gandules, because we also had that. It was everything that all of the matriarchs made as part of that mixed family. And so you'll see that in my story. And then the sibling angle was something that I always like to do. I don't know what it is about. Maybe I have some issues that I'm working out about siblings, but there's always sort of like an interfering sibling, or a sibling that needs their comeuppance. And I love my brother, I really do. So if he sees this, I don't want him to think that that's an issue. But I do like sort of dynamics that are family focused, that affect a relationship, just because I love to see families in stories. And what's hard in a short story, I mean, some of these stories are 10K, some of them are 14K, 15K, but they're very short. So how do you get that kind of family dynamic in a very short story? And so for me, it was kind of putting this brother who is holding the female main character back, and she kind of has to assert herself, and asserting herself also allows her to find the person she's supposed to be with.
Yeah, I really love that, how you did mention, like, you really talked about, like, that she is Brazilian and Puerto Rican, and like how that plays into the types of food they had, the types of traditions, and how they celebrated. How did you come up with the idea for the food company that the brother owns? Since you already talked about the holiday traditions of food,
Right. So I knew that I wanted them to do some kind of IG live, and that was going to have some kind of food demonstration to it. And I was like, what kind of food company could there be? And I was like, oh my gosh, why doesn't this exist? Like a Latinx food prep company. Like I think of like HelloFresh and all of those companies that are now, really big, especially as a result of the pandemic. And I was thinking to myself, my gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had that? I don't know if it exists. Maybe somebody will tell me, but I don't think so, because when I looked, I couldn't find anything. But it just seemed like such a great way to sort of showcase that there is so much food, and enough food and varied food that could support that kind of company. So I was like, my gosh, maybe I should go and do this next. So if I'm not a romance writer, maybe I'll open up the Latinx food prep company.
I mean, writing books is hard, but to me, that sounds like a little bit more work.
Yeah.
I told my partner after I read your story, I was like, maybe this is what I should have done when I stopped being a clinician.
It's a great idea.
It is.
I will go in with you, Adriana, if you decide to do that. So,
you're a great cook, Adriana.
exactly.
Let's talk.
Okay.
It could be like Nesto and Carlos's.
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh.
For those who don't know, Nesto is a food truck owner in Adriana's debut novel, American Dreamer. Not a real person that we know who has a food truck.
That we know of.
Okay, Priscilla, you answered the question in there. So next up, okay, Diana with the Nochebuena dating dare. Excuse me. And I need 1 second to drink a glass of water. Can someone else read the blurb?
Hold on, where's the blurb? Priscilla, you got it?
Well, I thought I did, but they're not on the back of the book.
Oh,
sorry, they're inside the book. I'm okay now. Sorry.
Okay.
I got it.
I was like, I felt like I was on the verge of
I thought I was going to be able to cover
okay
her, and then I'm like, maybe not.
Okay,
It's a beautiful cover, though.
The Nochebuena dating dare. Enaida Lucero takes a second chance on love with a handsome musical director at her school, even if it means causing some Nochebuena drama with her ex-husband and familia. We love some Nochebuena drama. So, Diana.
Seems like a given.
Right, pretty much.
Yeah.
Goes without saying. So this is a story about a divorced single mom finding love again with a hot Broadway phenom. So what brought you to, what gave you the idea for the hero in this one especially?
Well, let's just put it out there. Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm obsessed with Hamilton. I listen to it all the time. I follow him, and I think that he is just absolutely adorable in every way you can be adorable, and intelligent, and just I wanted to create a character that was like him.
I love it.
He's so cute.
And what sort of holiday traditions did you use from your own family in this story?
Well, the perfect tree, my mom has the most perfect tree every single year. And so my tree is never perfect. I have 7 kids, and one of the traditions is we see who can put the tallest ornament on there. So people were throwing things and things are a mess and it gets really loud and out of control, or did. They're older now. But my mom's tree was just perfect, and she would rearrange your ornaments. So she would come behind you and be like, no. So she just had the most perfect tree. So that's definitely something I wanted to put in there. That experience of, having that tree, just having that incredibly perfect tree, and not the mess that is usually in my living room.
My mom would do the same thing, whether it was cleaning something or wrapping presents or ornaments on the tree. She would come behind you.
Like, I was still drinking that. Where's my cup? Yeah.
My mom
or she would just tell you.
My mom did that to my editor at a launch party. She's like, hello, took her plate, threw it in the garbage. Are you finished?
I want to know, does anyone have, in our house, there was like the front of the tree and then like the side that was like going to go against the wall, or that like if there was a window, the window could see, but below the window, maybe whatever.
I have that tree right now.
We had a dog with like a very violently wagging tail.
Oh,
and when my little brother was born too, we just stopped putting nice ornaments from like kind of like the midpoint of the tree down. And I still do that, even though there's no reason for it.
I didn't grow up with like the trees, like the ones that we use here, because I grew up in the Caribbean, and in the DR for a long time, they use these trees called charamicos, which was basically like a dried branch that they spray painted white, and like they filled like a paint can with cement and just kind of put this like dry branch inside, and that's what everyone had until like I was a teenager. And so you really couldn't do like the back of the tree because it literally had no leaves. There was no green. It was literally just like dry branches. So you could see you could see everything from every angle. So it had to look good, and you had to have a lot of ornaments because it was literally a dry branch spray painted white.
No trees were hurt.
Did anyone celebrate Three Kings, like Dia de los Tres Reyes?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
that's what I really remember.
Yeah. I'll talk about it in a bit, but because since I grew up in Ecuador for the first 6 years of my life, like it was the Three Kings, bro.
Yeah, that's why I said that if my mom would read the story that I'm putting out next week, she would literally have a stroke. But what we did was we would leave out, I don't know if everybody did this, but like how you leave cookies out for Santa, but for los Reyes Magos in the DR, you would leave some water, some grass for the camels.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
And 3 Marlboros.
Oh, no. Not the cigarettes that I remember. But we would take water and we would leave. Yeah. And we would
3
leave, like,
cigarettes.
Donna,
are you sure those were for the Three Kings?
My mom hated cigarettes. Like my mom was literally like, all my aunts smoked when I was growing up, and my mom
that's what it was.
Would not let them smoke in the house. And so I had to like literally call my aunts the night before, like, Tia Rebecca, can you bring me some of your cigarettes? Because I need some cigarettes for Los Reyes Magos.
Wow. No.
That's amazing.
We would leave out like milk and cookies for Santa, and then, hope there are no kids listening. Like I would leave out the cookies that I liked because that's who was going to eat them. Right. And but for Los Tres Reyes, then it was like water and carrots and grass. And I remember one year, and now as an adult, I'm like, how did I not notice that? One year in Puerto Rico, my aunt left like horse hooves in the grass. And now I'm like, camel hooves don't even look like that. But my sister and I were outside like, ay, Dios mío, vinieron, los reyes vinieron. Like the kings came. Totally
that is
not
a
even the
really
right
long
bookmark.
con. That is dedication.
We didn't have Santa either. We had a Niño Jesus. Like
We had Niño Jesus. We didn't have Santa Claus.
Yes.
I didn't grow up believing in Santa Claus,
Right,
and I don't think
yes.
neither did my brother. My little cousins did. Since they are all born here. I mean, in
Yes.
New York, they all grew up believing in Santa Claus.
I got in real trouble with my American cousins because I outed Santa. Like when I was like 8. And I was like, "There's
Girl.
no Santa, girl. That's just like not like that's your mom.
They're lying to you.
It's El Niño Jesus, and he only comes to the countries where people speak Spanish."
Adriana, I think we're the
Wow.
same person because I told my little cousins that Santa wasn't real, and my uncle who's a gringo, he got so mad.
Yes.
That like he talked to my mom about like how I was like ruining their childhood and something like
Yes.
that.
I mean, listen, I'm a Leo, so you know that I had like everybody sitting down and like listen to me like we were in a classroom.
Listen, I'm gonna teach you how to live.
I have to say, when my girls went away to college, they were like, "Mom, are the Three Kings still going to come if we're not at home?" I was
That's
like,
adorable.
Only if you leave cigarettes out for them.
Oh my god.
Okay. Speaking of, I don't know.
smoking. I have no good luck with that segue.
There's no segue there. Sorry. We're just going to go into
Speaking of other countries,
Sorry.
Speaking of cigarettes and camels, not really. There's no cigarettes or camels.
No,
in
no
English.
animals were harmed in the creation of our
Making of this
anthology.
anthology.
Yeah.
Love in Spanglish by Zoey Castile, aka Zoraida Cordova. A heartbroken romance writer gets snowed in with a novel-worthy hero who may just make her believe in love again. So we have so many good tropes here. We have snowed in, forced proximity, they lose power, his truck gets bad, like everything that can happen happens to these people to keep them in this cabin. And we have kind of a language barrier too that you handled in, I thought, a really perfect way. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you really figured out how to do that?
yeah. So Love in Spanglish was a really difficult story for me to write because I wanted to make sure that anyone who was a non-Spanish speaker could go and understand, right? But the reason I chose this was because with my other books, I haven't, for instance, The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina under my Zoraida Cordova name, or Labyrinth Lost also under Zoraida, I feel like a lot of readers are like, wow, you use so much Spanish. How do you balance that? And, to be honest, out of a 90,000 word book, maybe 1,000 words are in Spanish, but sometimes people just like, to them, it feels like it's so much. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a 12,000 word short story and make like half of the words Spanish. So it's truly like in Spanglish, the dialogue is in Spanglish. And I always wonder what it's like to learn a language when you're a little bit older. My hero is an immigrant from Chile. In my brain, he's Pedro Pascal. And yes. And I think that my main character, her inability to, her idea that she's lost her mother tongue because she lost her language as a little girl, assimilating in the United States, learning how to speak only English. I think that that's like something that a lot of immigrants and second generation kids and a lot of not just Latinos, but people from other places in the world where they come to the United States and they lose the language. And so the loss of language and your brain sort of switching over is something that I think a lot about in all of my work, because I came to the United States when I was 6 or 7. I can't remember. I remember the day. I remember it was snowing. I was wearing bell bottoms. It was, the 90s. And so but at a certain point when I was like 10 years old, my brain just switched. And so language plays an important part of my work. And these two people fall in love in a snowstorm, even though they can communicate because love is their language, obviously. But they still have to try, and they have to try all the harder because they can't. Because they can't fully communicate. And there's misunderstandings, right? Some words just don't translate right. What did Donna ask? Is it hard to read if you know only? No, Donna, it shouldn't be hard to read because there is context. There's context around each sentences, and she translates it in her brain, and it's from her point of view. So you really get to see how she processes what he's saying, and so I did my very best to make sure that like anyone coming into this could really understand everything that's happening, because I had to my mom had to do that when she came here and had to and still sort of has this battle with language.
So were there any traditions that you included in the story? There's a lot of writerly traditions for sure. He is a writer on a deadline.
I'm not going to say that I didn't channel all of my writer angst into this, but I definitely did. I didn't include any tradition. I don't think I included traditions in this story. Except my tradition of sort of running away from my family because they love me too much. And I don't know how to accept love and need to talk to a therapist. So that might be the only thing. But I think that even though they lose power, they still make a lot of food and they still find a way to find a bottle of wine in that cabin. So food is always going to be an important part of any story I tell because it's a big part of culture, even if they're just making a roasted chicken.
As we did during our first retreat, which someone had asked about a little ways back.
About how we got together.
To write this together. And that was in 2019, we did an in-person writers retreat all together. Little did we know that would be the last in-person retreat we would ever do. And we went to my friend's house up in the Catskills here in New York and roasted a lot of chickens. I think Adriana Zarida handled most of the cooking. Yeah. We went through a lot of Prosecco.
And I brought a rose-flavored syrup.
Yes. And that combination of the Prosecco and the rose-flavored syrup is just so good. So we all have bottles of it at home now, too.
Yes. I do.
And from there, we started doing virtual retreats. And sometimes we do happy hours with some other authors. And it was at one of these virtual retreats that we, we're talking about doing anthologies. And we also watched a bunch of holiday movies together, including Love Actually. And then we were like, well, what if we did our own anthology of interconnected stories? And thus Amor actually was born. Actually, it was just born on Tuesday. It's been gestating for a year.
that all-important author question of what if? Like, what if it was in New York? And what if they were Latinx? And what if they did this? And what if we added that? And what are the tropes that we're drawn to? And that whole thing. And voila.
Yeah, and here we are. Okay, so the next story is one that Adriana and I wrote together. And this is also because we feel that a certain cue card declaration of love left a lot to be desired. So we were like,
wrong there.
Who needs a love triangle when you can have a throuple? Way better. So I will read her blurb. Newlyweds Pascal and Jamilet's Christmas is just short of perfect. The missing piece is their best friend, Marcelo, who has loved them from afar for years. This Nochebuena, they'll finally complete their happily ever after. So this was my first time co-writing something since I wrote fanfic as a teenager with my cousin. Adriana, have you ever co-written anything before?
No.
So this was an experience because we also had to do it very quickly.
Yes. Although it did help, like we see each other over Zoom a lot. So I think we at least were like planning or talking about it a lot before we had sat down. So I think that's why we was able to go quickly because we had talked about it for a long time.
Yeah, it really felt like every time we did sit down like in a shared Google Doc, it just like all of the stuff just came out like really quickly.
Yeah.
And it just all came together with these three characters and their story. So we decided to divide it up into 3 chapters. And Adriana wrote the first one, I wrote the second one, and the third one we actually wrote together, like in the same Google Doc. And then we both kind of went through and like, you know, massaged the whole thing so it feels like a cohesive story. And it's just really sweet. They make pasteles, and you know, they go and they get their man.
They make out.
They make out. Yeah, there's like a really sexy flashback during a wedding.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like my favorite part is the cue cards, which Alexis wrote. And I think like it was almost like Alexis is writing them and I'm like cheerleading her, like, add this, add that. We actually, a lot of the cue cards were written like as we were like together, but Alexis was actually typing. And it was actually a really good experience. I do think we know each other really well as writers, and like how like our voices, like we really enjoy each other's work. So I think we have a good sense for each other's voice. And I think that really helped coming together. I don't know if I would co-write again with anyone that I don't know really well. Because I think the key to that, this is going smoothly, is that Alexis and I have like a really good sense of each other as writers. And that helped a lot.
Yeah. And we wrote our first 2 chapters separately, but then after I went back and read Adriana's, I was like, I kind of picked up different things of her voice. So I like wove them into what I've written, or as like, we really were writing different parts of a chapter at the same time. Like she would be higher up in the chapter and I would be lower. And then like I would jump higher up and Adriana would like right at the end. And like, but it worked. And we would just talk out loud as we were going like, oh, and what if he said this here? Oh, and then what if they kiss? Okay, I'll write the kiss. You go write that part where they're going up the stairs, or whatever like that.
It was good. I mean, I like the quote that we used for pull quotes, where she's like coming out of the dollar store with like all this stuff. And she's like, I bought $40 worth of crafts. And she's like, should we leave that? And I'm like, no, we should leave that. And then I'm like, let's just like add something. And then I think one of us came up with like, it's our grand gesture. So I think I really do think that it helped that we have like, we're in a very similar wavelength in terms of voice and how we approach our characters' voices. But
yeah, so that really worked. And then we also got to bring in a lot of holiday traditions too. Like we really thought about these characters like, okay, these 2 guys have known each other since college. And then Jamilet came in. She's the wife of one of the guys. And like, you know, what are these holiday traditions that they have built together where, you know, they're going to the Nochebuena party every year. And then they go up to Lake George and have this like, you know, Christmas to New Year's time together as friends. And then before the party, they always make pasteles together using Marcelo's abuela's secret adobo recipe. And that's like kind of like a running joke through the whole thing. And Gigi's like, you better bring these freaking pasteles. Because if you don't,
I know. Yes. And bad pasteles
stricken from the list.
Bad pasteles will ruin a Nochebuena.
And then of course, Adriana went and got pasteles yesterday, and I didn't have any.
And we were so jealous.
They were so good.
We have a group chat. We're like, oh my God. Although I could go I'm in Puerto Rico. I could go get some pasteles somewhere.
I was going to say, I want you to go get a really good alcapurria for me. See?
I will.
Where did I have alcapurrias? Oh no, I had alcapurrias in just for the holidays. So I love those, but they're not Dominican. You can't find them in the DR.
No.
But that was one of the things for me that was like a family tradition, like making pasteles, and like, you know, who got to have some frozen, like who got, you know, some of my grandmother's.
Yeah. My mom, I sent my mom a photo, and I'm going home on next Friday, and my mom like twisted her mouth, like literally sent me a picture of her twisting her mouth and was like, you're eating a restaurant pasteles?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, Mommy, who's gonna
throw shade?
So
she's like, I'm making you pasteles when you come home. Stop eating those restaurant pasteles. I'm like, they were good.
That is like a sure way to make sure that you have some waiting for you though. So,
yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's true. That's true.
All right.
Not just something like mom made, like mommy made is even better.
Even better. So we have one last story in this anthology that is the one that ties all of them together. And that is The Great Holiday Escape, which features Gigi, who's maybe the only character who appears or is mentioned in like every single
she's
story.
mentioned in every story. Yeah, she is the Jay and Silent Bob of our universe.
Our literary
I started
universe.
calling her the elf on the shelf.
We're gonna have to put her in like every book from now on.
Yeah.
Just
mention Gigi.
Gigi.
Just mention a Gigi.
There's going to be a Gigi
book.
in every book. Ay, Dios mío. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so The Great Holiday Escape. Gigi is always hustling to make sure her little sister has everything she needs, including a big Christmas Eve fiesta with all their friends and family. When her loved ones surprise her with a luxe getaway, she meets not one, but two beautiful strangers who fulfill all her wildest fantasies. But as the vacation wraps up, Gigi can't bear the thought of leaving her heart behind in South Beach. So we have a vacation romance here, because who doesn't love a falling in love on vacation storyline? So So tell us a little bit about writing about the vacation piece, but then also writing about the Nochebuena party piece.
Yeah, so this is a story about a girl who just, she puts family first. She's always doing stuff for others. Her parents have passed, and so she's in charge of like taking care of making sure this party that's the first time her parents are not going to be there, that it goes off without a hitch. And so it's really about how all of these stories, how everyone has like pitched in to like bring community together. And I think that's what makes this anthology a little different, is that the last story encompasses all of that. And it's also wish fulfillment, right? Like her family, sometimes you forget to take care of yourself. So her family has to do it for her. Her family and friends buy her a ticket to South Beach, and she goes down there. And it's partially about my favorite things about Christmas, which is the magic of romance novels and romance movies during Christmas, which is usually about fate, right? You meet somebody on a street somewhere, and oh my God, they're also at your hotel. And so this one features two, like a Latin daddy and just a younger Latin man. And so they're a couple, and they're looking for their third. And so sometimes you wonder, can your heart be split among two people? Like, and so I think it's funny that we ended with two thruples back to back. That was an accident.
That was not intentional.
Yeah. And then we get to the big party. And so, that's just what everything Christmas means to me, which is like magic, love, family, a lot of food, dancing, and just, I loved writing this one.
And
I loved how you orchestrated every one of our characters.
I did. I tagged everybody, and I was like,
fantastic.
Would your character say this?
Yes. Yeah.
Does your character look like this? Is your character wearing this? So I
love that. It was,
Yes.
Just the perfect ending.
I love how you were able to weave everyone in, and even get like a little taste of like who they all were, or how they tied together, or it was the perfect ending.
It was very good.
So we have a suggestion from Elizabeth before we get to the quick fire. Perhaps the next book could be a recipe book with all the food and drinks mentioned in the anthology. Maybe a newsletter freebie. Actually, Adriana already had one, right?
I have a cookbook with some of the recipes from my books. Yeah.
I love that so much.
Or a recipe
Christmas
book.
edition.
For some reason, YouTube doesn't let you add links, because I was trying to add links to the anthology, and the rose syrup, but they're not popping up. So if you type in rose syrup online, it'll pop up. And
I typed the name in here because I did the same thing. I went to Amazon where I bought it, and I tried to drop the link, and it dropped the link on it looks like it did anyway on my phone, but it's not showing up here in the comments.
It doesn't show up in the comments.
Maybe in the YouTube comments. I don't know. But
and also we had
you were smart adding the buy links. I was adding the rose syrup.
Priorities. So Marian asked Adriana and I, are we both now interested in co-writing again? I think I would. But again, not too many people I think that I would co-write with.
Yeah, I'd co-write again for sure. I
want to see a novel from you too.
Oh, okay. Us together. Yeah, I'd do that again for sure. But like I like collaborating with people. Yeah, so I think like I'm open to it.
But I read the next question. Look at what Emmy said.
Hold on. Elizabeth said she would love to see this as a Netflix show. Me too.
Me too, girl.
Mita, Elizabeth, from your lips or your typing fingers to God's ears.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Writing God's ears or lo que sea.
Emily Lou said, hoping we get a witchy spooky season anthology next. So, I mean, you know that I'm all about that, and Zoraida too, with the witchy books. So
that
we'll
could
just
be
keep
really
gathering
fun.
the ideas.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
quick fire time.
I put an order in our private chat, but I don't know if we can go back and forth and look at it.
Sure, that works. Okay. So
fire.
I don't know if we're gonna get through all of these questions, but we're just gonna have to go through like real fast.
One word, real fast
One word
answers.
answers. What is your must-have holiday food? Arroz con gandules. Diana.
Arroz con pollo.
Sabrina.
Tamales.
Mia.
Feijoada.
Zoraida.
Ayacas.
Priscilla.
Pernil.
Adriana.
Puerco asado. Pernil. Yeah.
What is your favorite holiday drink?
Okay, here we go.
Hot chocolate.
Oh.
Diana.
Coquito. I don't know what the order is. Somebody
The
tell me.
order is in the
Cocoa
private
with,
chat.
with a
Diana.
little bit of chili.
What?
Like a little bit of chili powder. Cocoa with a little bit of chili
Oh,
powder.
cocoa. I
Oh,
thought
like
you said
Mexican
coquito
hot.
with chilies, and I was
Yeah.
like, I
Ooh.
haven't heard of that. Okay, Sabrina.
I like sparkling cider.
Mia.
Coquito.
Zoraida.
I like cider with whiskey or bourbon in it.
Of course.
Whoa.
Priscilla.
Coquito.
Adriana.
Black velvet, which is stout with
Oh my God.
prosecco.
Wow.
With prosecco.
Very on brand.
Stout with prosecco. It's my favorite drink.
Tried
As
that.
soon as the temperature drops below 50, I start drinking black velvets.
Black velvet. I'm gonna try that.
Interesting.
What is-
I
Delicious.
know.
What is your favorite holiday cookie or sweet treat? And those of you in the comments, feel free to answer your own
Answer
answers.
too,
to these.
please.
Oh yeah.
Gingerbread cookies.
Gingerbread. Mine are
Mhm.
pecan bars. My boyfriend's mom makes them and freezes them, so we have them for a long time. Sabrina.
Mine are the Mexican wedding cookies, but they're also called like the Russian tea cookies, the powdered sugar.
Yeah, those are
Oh,
good.
polvorones, yeah.
Yeah.
Polvorone. Eso es lo que iba- yeah.
Mia.
Is this sweet treat like a dessert too?
Treat, yeah.
Okay, flan.
Oh yeah. Although I have to say, I was really interested in. Was it empanada?
Yeah.
Your story.
Yeah.
That's
My
good.
story? Did I mention empanadas?
Not
Oh.
empanadas. With it starts with an R.
Oh, rabanada.
Yes,
Ooh.
Yes.
that
So
sounds
it's,
good.
What is that cake with the fruit in it? The Italian bread?
Panettone.
Panettone. Yeah.
Ooh.
I put that in and dip it in my coffee. It's just like I feel like an 80-year-old Italian woman when I do that. But my mom, my whole family loves it. They think it's the classiest thing.
Yeah.
It's such
Yes,
a
I
last
hear
thing.
you.
Like
They were
in
just
the
making
DR,
British
the
baking
supermarkets are like packed with panettone starting in October. Those Danish
Ay, Dios
cookies,
mío.
the blue.
Oh,
tin
the
Danish
blue
cookies.
ones. Yes.
Oh my
those.
gosh.
The blue tint. Oh my god.
But the panettone and turron, it's like
Yeah.
everywhere.
Ay, Dios mío.
That's where I
The
keep my
dance.
thread in the blue Danish container.
Oh yeah.
That's your sewing kit.
Exactly.
It must
Yeah.
be that there
Eat all the
was
cookies.
one importer exporter for all of Latin America, and they brought the same cookies to everybody.
Peanut butter balls. What
Okay,
is
mine
that?
is we make homemade sugar cookies, but then we make homemade gingerbread, like buildings and stuff, and then we will break it on Christmas, on New Year's Eve. We'll break
Yours
the
are
gingerbreads for
elaborate.
eating.
I've seen them online.
I have
Yeah.
seen them too.
We do big things,
Yeah.
like we've done Wrigley Field, we did the Eiffel Tower, we've done the Roman Colosseum, we did a
Wow.
pavilion in Park Güell in Barcelona. It was when we did Wrigley Field inside. We bought mini gummy bears, and they were the Cub fans, and then we got mini
Aw.
M&Ms, and they were the opposing team fans, and I put them like in the bleacher seats. It was fun. But then on New Year's
The
Eve, we'll like break
level-
it and eat it.
That's
The
cool.
level
Amazing.
of organization, like
My family's not stable.
my
enough
mom's
for
too
that.
chaotic.
Adriana.
There's this one called Deditos de Novia, and it's literally
Lady
like
fingers?
bride Deditos de Novia, and it's literally like it's the literal translation is bride fingers. But it's like a shortbread cookie filled with guava jam, and then they're like dipped in like powdered sugar. But they are so good, and usually like my mom bought them, like from a lady who lived in an apartment, and so she only made like the highs. So those are my favorite, Deditos de Novia.
Yeah. I have to say some of the ones over here and everybody who's commenting with theirs, I'm like between the meals and the drinks and the food, I'm like ready. I'm ready.
Also, Siobhan said, I love that I feel represented with this anthology and all this Latinx energy. I just want a copy for myself and for my sisters. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So
Elizabeth, we started making gingerbread with a VHS video. That's how long ago? Like a VHS video.
Wow.
We started out with one little house with my girls, and then just over the years, we went from a house to each their own house to they wanted to make a village. One year we made the mayor's mansion and a 2-story dance studio and a beauty salon, and so it just kind of grew over the years.
I feel
like a gingerbread village.
You need to post a retrospective on your Instagram of like past years.
I need to, because they're somewhere on Facebook, but I do have the pictures. I'll post. Yeah,
are over an hour now. I don't know if we want to. We still have some more questions, but we should probably wrap up. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to add before we go? If you or what do we all have coming next? How about that?
Oh yeah, that's
a good thing to do. Okay, Diana.
I have the second book in my Bad Legacy series. It's coming out next April or May. I'll let you know.
Sabrina?
I have a new series coming out at the end of next year. It's Second Chance at Rancho Lindo, and it's a new Mexican-American cowboy family in California.
Oh, great.
I'm excited about that.
Mia?
I have The Wedding Crasher, which is the follow-up to The Worst Best Man, and it's a fake dating romance with lots of shenanigans.
Sabrina.
I have the paperback version of Orquídea Divina, which is my adult magical realism debut. It's about an Ecuadorian family with an inheritance, a magical inheritance. And I have a YA Latino Latinx fantasy anthology called Reclaim the Stars. Nina Moreno, who's in the audience, is one of the contributors. 17 stories, fantasy and sci-fi, comes out in February. So I'm the editor of this anthology, and so I'm very, very proud of it.
Priscilla?
I have West Side Love Story. It is a May, maybe a June release, and it's coming out. It is Romeo and Juliet loose retelling with set in the world of mariachi music. So there's dueling mariachi bands and the two familias on different sides of the gentrification line, set in San Antonio, where my papi was born and raised. So there are a lot of little nuggets that maybe the reader might not know, but I'll share as we get closer. But little nuggets for my familia, like something happens at a church where my grandparents had their 50th wedding anniversary, like huge wedding thing. And so I have little nuggets dropped throughout for my familia. And so I'll talk more about them as we get closer, but I'm super excited for this to come out.
Adriana?
And who's next? Yeah.
12 books. Okay.
I know.
1,700 books.
So I'm just gonna say the bigger book that I've been working for a while. Am I freezing?
Yeah.
You're okay now.
Am I freezing?
You're okay now.
You're good.
Yeah.
Okay. It's historical Caribbean eras in Paris, and it's set in 1889, and it's a basic girls trip type series with a Dominican rum heiress who goes to the World's Fair to sell her rum and meets a Scottish earl who makes whiskey, and they end up in a marriage of convenience.
Oh, you froze a little bit after marriage.
At Marriage of Convenience.
Do you want to tell us when it's coming out?
Oh, yes. And then they go to Edinburgh.
Oh, you're freezing a little bit still. Is the release date in May?
The end of May.
May.
Right. Yes.
Like May 24th or something like that.
Yeah. I love how we have each other's calendars memorized.
I don't even know what my calendar is, but I can count on you guys.
I know your next deadline. It's very close to mine. My next release is, well, there's a lot of things up in the air, but Primas of Power #3, Ava's book. is what I'm working on. So that will be coming at some point. And
Can't wait.
I don't have a release date yet, but I will share it when I do. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for participating in the comments. I hope that you all had a great time. Amor actually is out now. As you can see, there is a paperback. Right now it's only available on Amazon, but that may change. Other bookstores may pick it up, but you can get it. It's also available on ebook. And we are super proud of it. And this was really a labor of love on all of our parts. We worked so hard on it, and we hope that you enjoy it, and that it brings you all of those Nochebuena, Christmas Eve feels, and really just makes you feel good as you read it at the end. Yeah. Right? We've got 9 happily ever afters, so that's like lots of jolts of optimism. And who doesn't need that right now? So,
love is in the air.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amor actually is all around. So
yeah,
thank you all so much. We can all raise our figurative glasses of coquito, and Zoraida can raise her real one if she has any left.
I know, I'm almost done. Elizabeth, definitely try coquito and let us know. Reach out to one of us or some, and let us know what you think.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.